Many others believe the same thing. Wycliffe, Tyndale, Luther, Calvin, Cranmer, the translators of the King James Bible, and the men that published the Westminster Baptist Confession of Faith. These men, among countless others, all saw the office of the papacy as the Antichrist. Do you remember what priest J. Cornell said? The final objective of ecumenism, as Catholics conceive it, is unity in faith worship and the acknowledgement of supreme spiritual authority of the Bishop of Rome. Now, to find out if the ecumenical movement is working, we need to go back into time. Presbyterians, Congregationalists, and Methodists. These churches are negotiating reunification with the Anglican Church, whilst the latter is grabbing the hand of Rome. In 1975, the Protestants and the Roman Catholics issued the First Common Catechism. Now, what does this catechism say? In 1977, the Joint Anglican Roman Catholic Commission issued the following statement. It seems appropriate that in any future union, a universal primacy, such as has been described, should be held by the Roman See. Eisen und Altseifen. These bones of contention, and they decided that Pope is no longer Antichrist. In 1989, the Anglican Archbishop of Canterbury, the Most Reverend Robert Runcie, went to Rome and urged Christians to consider the Pope's primacy as spiritual leader. And now, you have the signing of the Declaration of Canterbury, and now, the Pope is the head of these churches. Now I'm curious, what does the Anglican Church look like, now that it's back with its mother? I had to find out. To find out, I searched St. Paul's Cathedral, and this is what I found. Here's a picture of St. Paul's, and what does it say about the cathedral? Its impressive dome was inspired by St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. Now, while St. Paul's makes an image to the beast, Rome is in the background, trying to gather the rest of her daughters. And the Pope tells the world, for unity, all churches must accept papal authority. And do the churches accept it? And Rome's mission was a success. Ecumenism gives a wound to Protestantism. And a new era of Protestant preachers from Rome emerge. This is Billy Graham, a well-known evangelical Protestant, who was also a 32-degree Freemason. He is just another pawn pushing the agenda of Rome. Billy Graham, on receiving an honorable doctorate from the Roman Catholic Belmont College, Billy Graham said, "The gospel that founded this college is the same gospel which I preach." The religious news service reported on January 13th, 1981, that Pope John Paul II was closeted for almost 2 hours with the Reverend Billy Graham, the world's best-known Protestant evangelist. The Pope used Billy Graham to get his foot in the door to the United States, and it worked. It was through Billy Graham's intervention that Reagan set up an ambassador to the Vatican. President Reagan was not the only president to have a relationship with Rome and to break the Constitution of the United States. There was one president who had the strength and courage to stand up against Rome. His name was John F. Kennedy.
The crime guide in our newsroom, and there has been an attempt, as perhaps you know now, on the life of President Kennedy. He was wounded in an automobile driving from Dallas Airport into downtown Dallas, along with Governor Connolly of Texas. They've been taken to Parkland Hospital there, where their condition is as yet unknown. We have not been told their condition. At Dallas, in the downtown hotel room, a group had been gathered to hear President Kennedy when it's waiting his arrival. Let's switch down there now, where Eddie Barker of KRLD is on the air.
Now, as it happened, the tragedy in Dallas. At precisely 12:30 p.m., the presidential limo turns into Dealey Plaza.
John F. Kennedy went from Washington down to Texas to ensure Protestant preachers that he would not obey the Pope. In 2001, George Bush came from Texas to Washington to assure a group of Catholic bishops that he would. Rome is gathering up her children, and now it was time to gather up all the religions of the world. pontiff told the assembled Buddhist monks, Zoroastrian priests, Catholic cardinals, Hindu gurus, American Indian shamans, Jewish rabbis, and the ecumenical clergy that all must join in condemning the Christian fundamentalists who abuse speech and whose efforts are converting others and incite hatred and violence. All present were in one accord on two key points. 1. Pope John Paul II was endorsed by consensus as the planet's chief spiritual guide and overseer. 2. Religious fundamentalists that refuse to go along with the global ecumenical movement are to be silenced. They must be denounced as dangerous extremists full of hate. Right now, you might be endorsing the ecumenical movement and not even know it. But if you willingly know that you are against this New World Order movement, you will be labeled as a dangerous extremist and maybe even be called a terrorist. So what is this ecumenical movement? Let's ask the World Council of Churches. The word ecumenical is derived from the Greek term oikumene, which may be translated as the whole inhabited world. Now there is one obstacle that is preventing the ecumenical movement from uniting the whole inhabited world. Simply stated, Adler argued that we will not be able to attain world peace until we attain cultural unity. But Adler argues that there is only one obstacle to unity: Christianity. Now when they talk about Christianity, they're not talking about Christians as a whole. They are talking about a specific group. To find out who this specific group is, let's ask the Freemasons themselves. And according to Gary, the ancient mystery religions has passed down to Kabbalism, Gnosticism, Knights Templars, all the way to the Rosicrucians, and then to the Freemasons. And the Freemasons control Marxism, American European secret political societies, international banking elite, and the World Council of Churches. Kyung from the World Council of Churches declared, "To witness about Jesus Christ to another person is in reality an act of violence." When reminded that Jesus said in John 14:6 that he is the only way, Kyung said Jesus was mistaken. So according to the ecumenical movers, the religious fundamentalists that must be silenced are the Bible-believing Christians who witness about Jesus. Now there are people who claim to be Bible-believing Christians and Christians that witness about Jesus, but are still a part of this movement. Right now, I'm going to show you how Rome is going to determine if you are with this New World, New Age ecumenical movement, or if you're a dangerous heretic that must be silenced.
That all people have the right to work, not to work, at the same time, so that they can be together. And one of the things that's happening to us is that we're getting on these very different schedules, and we're having a very hard time figuring out how to come together. And what the Sabbath does is it creates this situation in which there's just a structured period in which we can come together.
So is this the first step? And maybe that is the answer to my next question. Is going to say, what's the first step if someone's watching and they say, you know what, I need to do that?
Basically, the first step is to do it yourself. You bring it into your life and try to get your family to do it with you. But one of the things I argue in the book is one of the ideas, the political ideas sort of embedded in the Sabbath, is the idea that as a society we have the right to take control of our time and say maybe as a democratic society we want to decide to bring back some rules about what can and cannot be done one day a week. And we might want to start thinking about ways to encourage people not to work on that day.
Ah, very good advice.
All our lives, we have been taught that the Lord's day, the Sabbath, the day we must worship God, the day we must attend church, the day we must rest, and a day that must be kept holy, was to be on Sunday. It was not until now that I began to see the truth, not by outside sources, but by the very one that is pushing for Sunday observance, and the one that changed times and laws. And as a part of this crusade to save Sunday, Pope John Paul II writes an apostolic letter calling to keep Sunday holy. He also writes in that letter, "Only in the 4th century did the civil law of the Roman Empire recognize the weekly reoccurrence, determining that on the day of the sun, the judges, the people of the cities, and the various trade corporations would not work." Doesn't this sound remarkably like the Freemason ran CNN?
The Sabbath is two things to me. One, it's this incredible idea. It's really one of the great ideas in human history. It's transformed the world. It's affected the way we've lived for thousands of years. The Sabbath is not just that all people have the right not to work, which, by the way, was a radical and new idea when it was first conceived and written down in the Fourth Commandment. It's not only that. It's that all people have the right to work, not to work, at the same time, so that they can be together. And
the Pope goes further in saying that Christians will naturally strive to ensure that civil legislation respects their duty to keep Sunday holy. Yes, the Pope is right when he says that Christians will strive for Sunday legislation, because it is the people that are getting brainwashed to think that we even need Sunday legislation.
So is this the first step? And maybe that is the answer to my next question. Is going to say, what's the first step if someone's watching and they say, you know what, I need to do that?
Basically, the first step is to do it yourself. You bring it into your life and try to get your family to do it with you. But one of the things I argue in the book is one of the ideas, the political ideas sort of embedded in the Sabbath, is the idea that as a society we have the right to take control of our time and say maybe as a democratic society we want to decide to bring back some rules about what can and cannot be done one day a week. And we might want to start thinking about ways to encourage people not to work on that day.
Ah, very good advice.
Wait a minute. When did she say that this law was first written?
All people have the right not to work, which, by the way, was a radical and new idea when it was first conceived and written down in the Fourth Commandment.
This commandment is very important because it reveals if you are a Bible-believing Christian or a follower of man. Now let's see what the Fourth Commandment says.
Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your manservant or maidservant, nor your animals, nor the alien within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy.
Let's break this commandment down. The Sabbath is the Lord's day. And what day is the Sabbath? It is the 7th day, which is Saturday. And how do we remember the Sabbath and keep it holy? We should rest and do no work. By keeping these commandments, not only does it exalt God, but Jesus also. Jesus said, "If you love me, keep my commandments." Jesus also said, "But in vain they do worship me, teaching for the doctrines, the commandments of men. What I want to look at now is to see if the commandments of the Roman Catholic Church is of God's or of man's. Now, one way to find out if the Roman Catholic Church is teaching the doctrines and commandments of man or the commandments of God is just to ask Rome itself. One way of doing that is reading the Convert's Catechism of Catholic Doctrine. And if we go to the question and answer page, it'll ask and answer our questions for us. Question: what is the third commandment? Answer: the third commandment is, remember that thou keep holy the Sabbath day. Question: which is the Sabbath day? Answer: Saturday is the Sabbath day. Question: why do we observe Sunday instead of Saturday? Answer: we observe Sunday instead of Saturday because the Catholic Church transferred the solemnity from Saturday to Sunday. Question: why did the Catholic Church substitute Sunday for Saturday? Answer: the Church substituted Sunday for Saturday because Christ rose from the dead on a Sunday, and the Holy Ghost descended upon the apostles on a Sunday. Question: by what authority did the Catholic Church substitute Sunday for Saturday? Answer: the Church substituted Sunday for Saturday by the plenitude of that divine power which Jesus Christ bestowed upon her. The Pope admits that the Sabbath was changed from Saturday to Sunday, therefore making it his day, even though there is no scripture to do so. If the churches agree that there are no scriptures commanding us to change the Sabbath to Sunday, and agree that the Catholic Church changed it, then why does the whole world keep Sunday observance in the light of this truth? Sunday is therefore to this day the acknowledged offspring of the Catholic Church, as spouse of the Holy Ghost, without a word of remonstrance from the Protestant world. Reason and common sense demand the acceptance of one or the other of these alternatives, either Protestantism and the keeping holy of Saturday, or Catholicity and the keeping holy of Sunday. Compromise is impossible. The observance of Sunday by the Protestants is a homage they pay, in spite of themselves, to the authority of the Catholic Church. There's only one Protestant church that doesn't pay homage to Rome, a group that believes in the Bible and the Bible alone, a church that keeps the 10 Commandment law and remembers and keeps the commandment that says, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Once again, I'm not going to tell you who they are. I'm going to let Rome tell you who they are. The Catholic Church changed the observance of the Sabbath to Sunday. The Protestants claim the Bible to be the only guide of faith has no warrant for observing Sunday. In this matter, the Seventh-day Adventist is the only consistent Protestant. Those who follow the Bible as their guide, the Israelites and the Seventh-day Adventists, have the exclusive weight of evidence on their side, whilst the biblical Protestants has not a word in self-defense for the substitution of Sunday for Saturday.
So who do they declare as their confirmed opponent? What does the Roman Catholic Church say? Who's the only consistent Protestant, and who's the only one that opposes them on this issue? The Seventh-day Adventist Church. Now, can you understand why the Seventh-day Adventist Church is a rebuke not only to Catholicism but also to Protestantism? Yes or no? It must be. And so they will be reviled and called sects by both Catholicism and Protestantism. So basically, if this is so, I have been preaching it here. This is the position of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, irrespective of what others are doing, and Catholicism agrees heartily. In fact, says the editor, there can be no other choice.
Who are the Jesuits? The Jesuits were founded August 15th, 1534, by the Spaniard Ignatius Loyola and sanctioned by Pope Paul III on September 27th, 1540. Loyola wanted the order to be the champions of Catholic unity, which could only be assured through a subjective submission to Christ's vicar.
I now, in the presence of Almighty God and you, my ghostly Father, the Superior General of the Society of Jesus, founded by St. Ignatius Loyola, do by the womb of the Virgin and the matrix of God and the rod of Jesus Christ, declare and swear that His Holiness the Pope is Christ's Vice-Regent and is the true and only head of the Catholic or Universal Church throughout the earth. Therefore, to the utmost of my power, I shall, and will defend this doctrine and his holiness right and custom against all usurpers of the heretical or Protestant authority, and all adherents in regards that they be usurped and heretical, opposing the sacred Mother Church of Rome. I do further promise and declare that notwithstanding I am dispensed with to assume any religion heretical for the propagating of the Mother Church's interest, I do further promise and declare that I will have no opinion or will of my own, or any mental reservation whatsoever, even as a corpse, but will unhesitatingly obey each and every command that I may receive from my superiors in the militia of the Pope and of Jesus Christ. I furthermore promise and declare that I will wage relentless war, secretly or openly, against all heretics, Protestants, and liberals, to extirpate and exterminate them from the face of the whole earth, and that I will hang, burn, waste, boil, and flay, and strangle and bury alive these infamous heretics, rip up the stomachs of the wombs of their women, and crush their infant heads against the walls, in order to annihilate forever their execrable race.